Thanks for having us. Definitely happy to be here. Maybe we could start by just like talking about our backgrounds a little bit, and then I can share AuditWizard, the platform we've been working on. We can talk about it a bit. Um, so I'm Joe, co-founder of AuditWizard. Um, I've been in the security space for a little over 8 years now. I started in Web 2. Um, I did that for a long time. Working as a security engineer, basically just doing what we'd call audits in the Web3 space, doing that internally at companies like Amazon and Apple. Um, Left my job at Apple when uh, Brendan and I had the idea to build AuditWizard, and it started taking off, and decided we wanted to do that full time. And really, the inception of AuditWizard came when I started branching out into Web3 as a freelance auditor. I was getting interested in crypto and kind of exploring, uh, you know, different products and things on chain, and especially, DeFi, and really got interested in the security aspect of it, having been doing application security for so long. And so I would just pull up random contracts and read the code, things that I had already aped into, and was curious, like, oh, chasing 1,000% yield or whatever, put my money in there, and then let me take a moment to think about, how secure is this thing really? And I'd look at the contracts, and then I would immediately pull my money out because it was not secure at all. Um, so I kind of followed that trend, and then I decided that I wanted to dive into Web3 auditing. However, coming from like a more mature Web 2 background where there's, a lot of tools and a lot of like predefined like methods of operation for doing audits, I felt like the space was pretty lacking, and I really wanted more like of a support system, more of a structure where I could take my work and automate more of it. Reuse things, like if I'm building a report, I want to be able to just plug in my findings from another project and not have to do a whole lot of work. But I found myself like writing new reports from the ground up with every audit, and nothing was super efficient. So I decided I couldn't do freelance auditing until these problems were solved. Met Brendan around that time, and shared these pain points, and we decided we needed to make a tool out of it.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. Maybe Brandon also can share the background and the stuff about yourself.
Yeah, for sure. So on my side, my name's Brendan, other co-founder of AuditWizard. I've been working in the Web3 space since like early 2020, doing like DevRel and operations. I got my start in DeFi, working on a protocol to build index funds on chain. And doing that, I started to learn about what smart contract audits were, and we were paying a lot of money and waiting a lot of time to get them done. And so it seemed pretty obvious to me that that space was inefficient, especially in the last bull run. And so since then, I've worked at Filecoin. And about 2 years ago, I met Joe at Denver, where he told me about his ideas for building a tool to make the auditing process more efficient. As he shared, he was kind of a solo auditor at that time, and I thought it was super interesting. So yeah, just kind of every day after work since then, we hacked it together. And now here we are with AuditWizard.
Cool. Yeah, just I cannot wait for see your the demo of the product. So maybe we can drop on it like right now and just you can explain all details and how it works.
Sure. Yeah, we can go ahead and get a demo going here. There we go. Stream. All right, so this is what AutoWizard looks like when you first open it. So to start, I definitely want to dig into a lot of the concepts and ethos around why we built AuditWizard and how we approach building it. But we can kind of go through the product itself for a little bit first. Um, So when you first open it, you have your list of projects here, and you have different ways you can import things. So we have a few contests like Code Arena contests, Sherlock, Codehawks, some Cantina ones sometimes. Other bounties like Hats Finance has a lot of bounties that you can import, and could pull things directly from GitHub as well. So, and you can also just paste in a Git repository or a smart contract address and select the chain that you want to import the code from. So to start, I'm just going to take this GitHub repo and go ahead and import it. And so you can think of AutoWizard like an online IDE, right? As I said, I spent around 8 years doing security audits for Web2 companies. And then coming into the Web3 space, there was a lot that I felt was missing. However, when in Web 2 as well, I always felt like there was a little bit of clunkiness because auditors are using they're using developer tools to do auditing work, and a lot of the flow and a lot of the support tools and the quality of life stuff doesn't apply as much to auditors as it does to devs. So I never really liked using dev tools to do my work. So we've kind of built AuditWizard with that in mind. It's an auditor first IDE. So why don't we just kind of look through here what we've got. So first of all, each of these contracts has like different imports, right? Open Zeppelin stuff, that it pulls from npm or from GitHub. So what AutoWizard does is it will automatically detect those, and it will kind of pull in those dependencies. So you can go and look at your dependencies that you're actually using, look through the libraries and see how they work if you're curious. But that's a necessary step for being able to compile the project anyway, which we'll get to in a bit, how the different tools kind of leverage that. But to start, you can look through the code. The first step in any audit is just understanding the code, and maybe you want to annotate it, right, as you kind of understand things. So what you can do is you can actually create a couple notes. So you can just, if I want to highlight this wallet of owner function and make a note about it, and just maybe comment on, some comment about how this function works. And then I have the location here, and I'll say this is just informational for myself. Let me add a note there. So now I can see I've sort of annotated the code. I have my note here. It covers this stuff. I can see it in my notes here as well. Or if I just wanted to create like a bookmark, like let's say right here, make a little bookmark note. Say maybe this is a potential issue. Only owner might have an issue. Okay. So now I've just made a really quick note where I can sort of come back to it. I can navigate through the code, but point is I've read through everything, and I can organize myself and write some notes on the code. Now I think how people would normally do this is they'll edit the file and they'll add comments, and they'll maybe use like a plugin to manage this. And we've steered away from being able to edit any of the code because I feel like as an auditor, you don't really want to make any changes to the code you're editing. You don't want to put comments there, and then maybe you forget whose comments what, or it can just get kind of messy. So we have this system where you actually can't edit this code at all. If I'm trying to type here, but nothing's happening. So it's just kind of read only, but you can annotate and layer things on top of it. So that's it for notes. Now, if you've found something, like let's say this check in the mint function is has some issue. So you can add what's now called a finding. So I'll say just proper ownership check, and I'll say this one probably will give it a high severity. There's the location of it there, and I want to describe this. So now maybe I don't want to spend the time to write out the full description. So I'll just go ahead and I'll use AI to generate the description, and it's going to write a little bit here for me. So basically, I just give it the location of the code, I write a title, and then AI will populate this for me. Now, if I didn't want to do that, if I feel like this is a little bit wordy, I could also just delete that. I wanted to keep it more simple and say the ownership check sent properly, reference sender. I'm just kind of making this up as I go. This could allow an attacker to change the mint amount. So that's something that could be a threat. And if I want, AI to rewrite or expand on that, I can have it do that as well. And also have it do the same thing for the recommendation. Yeah, so here it took my brief write-up and it kind of expanded it a little bit into something that's a little bit more professional that can be put onto a report. And it says, upon review, it's been identified that the implementation flawed. Specifically, the mechanism fails to accurately authenticate the message sender's identity. This could potentially be exploited, etc., etc. Could do the same thing for the recommendation, but I'll just leave that for now. So I've now created a finding here, and I can generate a proof of concept test if I want now. So this is something we added recently where we can use AI to actually build a Foundry test for us. So we'll just give this a second here, but you can see just from the description, from the title, and from the lines of code I gave it, it gives us this complete Foundry test where it has a sort of a setup, and then it will test the mint. So this attempts to mint more than the amount. And basically what we had said was the ownership check was incorrect so that you could put in whatever amount you want. So it actually kind of intelligently built the test for us. Now it's not perfect. You'll have to kind of copy this and maybe edit the setup a little bit because, the AI can't get everything right as far as that goes. So might have to adjust a couple things, but this should be pretty close and you should be able to just run this. So that's kind of the flow there. And actually, something we're going to be releasing very soon is the ability to run the Foundry tests within AuditWizard. So once you generate a test using this button, it will actually go into a testing tool, be added to your list of tests, and you can run those individually. You can look through the traces you get from Foundry. You don't have to really do any setup because we automatically pull in imports and resolve everything for you. All you have to do is just import from GitHub, from on-chain, click around, basically do what I just did, find a finding, write something out, generate your proof of concept, and then boom, you can start testing proof of concepts within just a few minutes. That's the idea. Now, that's the basic flow. There's a lot more you can do. One thing we have here is we have this whiteboard mechanism. You can draw different things. You can let's see, if I wanted to make a diagram, I could just build a diagram, and I can start function A and function B, right? And I could, it's a very simplistic one, but if I wanted to show how a attack might work, or the different steps I would take, or if I simply just want to sort of graph out how the functions all interact so I can have a better understanding, we have this nice Excalidraw integration where you can do that, and then you can have different whiteboards here. Yeah, so that's that feature. And now there's a lot you can do with the Solidity code itself to analyze it. First thing is, if you care to look through the AST, like if you're building a scanning tool, we have the ability to do that, so you can look through like what actually this kind of compiles down to. Probably more interesting than that, though, is you can generate a graph. So we can see here, this is sort of a simple contract, but you can see the basic contract flow, right? The mint function, if I click on it, this is what it looks like. Or if I click on this function, I can see it calls these two functions here. Let's see. Yeah. Maybe we want to open the location here. Yeah. So we can go and look at the code there now. So in addition to that, we can, let me open this file. We can scan with different static code analysis tools. Right now, Slither is the one we have, so I can go ahead and hit the scan button here. So that runs pretty quickly. Another thing to mention is we actually include the pessimistic Slytherin detectors in addition to the base Slither detectors, so you get a little bit extra. So I've run the scan. Not really a whole lot found. We can see there's a few medium findings. Maybe one low here. But there are 47 informational findings. But we can see them highlighted here, and you can actually click over here, and we can see the description. So before, when you use Slither, you get this just wall of text. I mean, there's over 50 findings here, and that's everything that Slither would output in your command line to you. And now we're using this interactive UI to go through, and we can actually see it laid on top of the code, like this send value. If I want to look, it says no calls to custom addresses and contract interactions through access control. There's actually a few findings here that came from Slither: dead code, low-level calls, distinct from pessimistic. So it gives you just a much better interface for navigating Slither, the findings there. All right. And so, got a couple other features. Next one to show is the AI feature. So we can analyze the code. I won't click that button now because it can take a little bit of time. But we can chat with an AI and we can ask it some basic questions. So if I just am looking at this file and I want to get an idea of what are the state changing functions in the contract, I can ask the AI this. I can ask it anything really, but I just clicked one of the pre-made prompts we have here. And so you can use this chat function to really dig into how a contract works. And the nice thing about AI that I like is you can have a mix of questions about how is the contract doing a certain thing, what are the security implications of different things, like what threats can you think of that I should be looking into. But you can also ask questions like, in Solidity, how what's the difference between external and public, right? Or what happens when I make the variable on line 40 or whatever, if I make that storage rather than memory. and it'll give you an intelligent response. So you don't have to go open another tab to Google things. And you also have the context of the contract you're looking at with the AI. So you can really use it to explore a lot. And it helps when, this file is over 1,000 lines long. And I don't want to read every line. I just want to assess a couple high level things, and I'll use the AI to dig into that. So I asked it what functions change the state of the contract, and it gave me a list of all the different functions and tells me how it changes them. And so I could ask, what are the security concerns with the mint functions? So while AI it's not suitable to find vulnerabilities per se, it can do a good job of helping you ideate your threat model, the areas of focus within the code, places you should start with, where you should look. And so I'll use AI to say, basically, I just opened this project. I don't understand it a whole lot yet. Where do you think I should start? Like, what are some of the first functions I should look at? And what are the security concerns with them? So if I think that the mint function, I think that this mint function is where I really want to put my focus, I can ask it, what are the security concerns, as I did. And it will kind of outline, okay, access control, let me look at how access control is done. Okay, so only owner, that's probably fine, although I might want to go and confirm that modifier and how it works. Integer overflow might be another one. So let me look at the actual implementation here, and then I would look at it and say, okay, yeah, maybe this could be overflowed. It depends on what Solidity version we're using. But maybe amount is, something we can't easily spoof. Yeah, looks like it might be spoofable. So that's kind of how I would approach, looking into a code base, using AI to really accelerate my understanding and kind of guiding me in looking at different vulnerabilities. And then if I think I found something, again, I'll create the finding and I'll use AI to help me write it and help me generate a proof of concept test. And then now the last thing to show is this inspection tool. This is a new one for us, so it has some things we're going to be adding to it. But for right now, we have two aspects to it. We have the storage slots. So when looking at any contract, you have a set of storage slots that are assigned when it gets deployed, right? And that's where the storage variables are, put on chain. And it's pretty useful to look at the layout. Oftentimes you might see, let me see if I can find these variables. Token URI. Yeah. So oftentimes you might see that someone has like a Boolean value, and that gets put into an entire slot itself, when in fact they could pack their variables by reordering them in a certain way, or maybe there's a security issue with the storage slots being laid out a certain way. Either way, now you can just open the inspection tool and see what the internal layout of the contract storage is. And this other one doesn't really apply to this example, but if you import a contract via a contract address, then AuditWizard will actually pull in the values for all the public variables. So similar to how you would see in like Etherscan, you could look up the public variables and you can query them. We have these on-chain values, and they'll actually be layered on the code. So if you like if I hovered over this, I would see what the value of it is. If I imported this via address, but also there'll be a list of them here, so you can see what's the current state of the contract and how are the variables laid out. So that's the final tool, and that's really how you can use AuditWizard to do your audits. And now, I guess the last thing to say is we're still in beta. There are so many more features that we're going to be adding, but I think that what we have now for AuditWizard is still a pretty good value add for anyone doing an audit, looking to streamline their process, and we'll be adding so much more that will, continue to reach that goal.
Okay, cool. Thank you for the presentation. Just the first question for myself is that, what do you think about quality of AI generated information in the tool? Like how we can verify the quality of the information, though.
Yeah,
Or it can be, what you use. You use the OpenAI models, right? Like integrate them.
yeah. Basically, it's a GTP4 model.
Okay.
Um,
So
yeah,
what do you think? Yeah. Explain. Sorry.
yeah. It really varies. So, I mean, these are generalized LLMs, and they're suitable for generalized tasks. And this is a very specific task of using it for, text generation, code generation, and to query about the context of, the code you're looking at, or to have it analyze or break down the concepts within the code. And so LLMs are good for handling language-based tasks. So that's kind of what we've focused on, right? So the first one I demonstrated was the ability to rewrite the notes. Anytime you interact with ChatGPT, it can give you a little bit of a clunky response, and that's definitely still the case. So there's always some editing you're going to want to do. And the same thing with like generating code, right? Like anyone who's used like GitHub Copilot, it's really great for establishing boilerplate code. But when you have something kind of novel, there's a little bit more handholding you need to do, and you need to be more specific about what you're asking from the AI to get the result you want, and then also probably do some editing afterwards to make sure it will compile and that it actually does what you were looking for. So that's still the case. So that's why we really focus on AI to be this augmentation rather than this automation. So you use AI to seed the work you're already going to do as like a shortcut to get the boilerplate out of the way. But you notice that at no point did we use AI to find a vulnerability or make any claims to the actual security of the project. And that's because, in our research, and the what we've seen playing around with it is AI is not really suitable to find, concretely find if a vulnerability is present or not. I think it takes a huge quantity of data and very specific engineering that goes well beyond an LLM to find things like this. And so our approach to AI is breaking down how we want to use AI into these very specific smaller tasks, like helping you threat model and helping you understand. And right now we have the auditor be sort of the driver of coordinating all those things together. Maybe in the future AI can be more cohesive, where you give it a larger task of, start the audit and basically do the work of what a junior auditor might. But I think we're pretty far from that future, and it takes a lot of context and it takes a lot of training. But to start, it's a good tool for just shortcutting boilerplate.
Yeah. Well, that's actually true what you say. I'm wondering, like, can you speak about the prompts that you use for generating the description and for rewriting. I'm really curious. I'm wondering how is it?
Yeah. It's not a super complicated prompt. It's something along the lines of, you know, you're an expert auditor, and make sure you are considering these things when you answer, and make sure you're not getting distracted and being too long-winded in these areas. I think for prompt engineering in general, you start with the basics, you see what your output is, and you can see, oh, it's like it won't shut up about gas optimizations or something, even though they're like pretty low chance to actually be there. So maybe I'll put in something that says focus a little bit less on gas. So the core of it is just, hey, you're an expert Solidity auditor, and then we have a little bit of things to tune the response to make it a little bit more user friendly. But that's it really, and then we give it the context of the file you have open in AuditWizard. I didn't. So I showed the chat function. I didn't show the analyze function, which basically, well, it's because it writes a whole wall of text. But for that prompt, it's basically just give us an analysis of this security of this smart contract. And again, we'll put some like additional statements there, like focus more on these aspects and shy away from these other aspects. That's really it. But it's just it's a basic GPT LLM. But the best part is that it has the context of the entire file, right? You can ask it any question about lines of code, or just general questions, and it will act as if it is a expert security auditor. And we found that works decently well.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, it's I like the fact that we can, let's say, communicate with AI on the like while we are reviewing. It's actually pretty useful because actually, well, I'm a user myself of AuditWizard, and sometimes when I have some potential client that wants to have some code, the way I use it is I want to quickly know what it is about and what is there, and it is very nice to just go to the first option that it's I think it says something about explain the contract or the project, and it gives you a very nice overview. So actually I was curious about the prompts because it's accurate not only for the raising bugs or issues or findings, but in general it's useful, definitely. I mean, we all know we can just go also to ChatGPT or whatever, but it's nice to have it there as well.
Yeah, I think something about having it embedded is just such a quality of life boost, because when you think about it, if you want to use ChatGPT, you're gonna have to prompt engineer it every time. So you open up ChatGPT and you say, okay, here are my instructions. Like pretend you the AI are an expert auditor. Maybe here's some resources or like some additional training data to get you there. Follow these rules. And then here's my contract that I'm referencing. Okay, so I spent all that time putting all that in there, and then now let me chat with you about different things. So it's just really avoiding that overhead, and you just click one button and you start interacting with it right away. That has a lot of value. And then also at every step that you're working in an AuditWizard, there's some sort of integration with AI, rewriting something or generating a test for you. It's pretty prolific what you can do with it.
Yeah, totally. And by the way, I actually was very happy to see that Vara's POC. It was quickly generated, and I understand what you say, that it's kind of pre-generated, that you like some obviously not definite code that you can just use and it will work properly. But yeah, I didn't notice that feature yet, so that's interesting. And yeah, I was curious, like, is it like you say that it's what was it that like are you using Foundry for those POCs?
Yeah, so this is a feature we're going to be releasing in sometime this month, but essentially we are creating a Foundry integration with AuditWizard to run Foundry tests on our servers. So essentially what you get is this nice tool view where it has a list of all the tests that currently exist in the project. So if you load up a project that a developer made from GitHub or something and it has all their tests in there, you can run those just to confirm that they work. But you can also build your own tests, your own proof of concept tests, and you can run them using our Foundry backend, and it will give you the response whether it passed or failed, and it will give you the trace, and you can look through that. And similar to Slither, Foundry has this problem where if you get really verbose with it, you're blasted with this wall of text in your command line, and that can be a little bit difficult to work with. So we provide kind of a nice UI wrapper around that where you can navigate the trace, and all these things are collapsed until you want to dig into them, and you have like this interactive view. So it's much easier to actually look at the traces. Like if you want to look at the trace of an individual test and dig into that, it's a lot easier to do that than scroll through this wall of text and try to decipher it. So that's what's coming. And there's definitely more similar things on the roadmap. Like we want to add chisel integration as well, so that you can just have a REPL in AuditWizard and you can just throw in some Solidity code and see what happens. I think a lot of people, when they looking at like complex math, they want to just quickly run through it and be like, well, what if I try to overflow or divide by this number? Like, how is Solidity actually going to handle that? So that's another thing we're going to be adding, so you can sort of explore those things in the future.
Okay, that's cool, definitely. And you showed Slither, and then for a moment you showed that there is Slytherin from Pessimistic. I actually am, well, not, I was about to say I'm far from being an expert, but I'm barely getting acquainted with it like 2 days ago. And that's mutation testing. So it's a whole new experience there and whole new level. I was reading a bit about it, and it seems very, very powerful tools. So are you using, how are you actually creating how are they called, the mutations, or I don't remember, are you introducing in the code the errors and then testing if the available tests in the framework are actually found?
You mean for testing the effectiveness of Slytherin, or just for the general use case of running it?
Yeah, the general use case. If I'm not mistaken, mutation testing is adding some bugs and then runs your available tests so to see if those bugs are found or not. And I'm wondering if there's a kind of report or anything that says anything about it in AuditWizard.
Right. So we don't necessarily do anything special. We the way Slither works is you have the core Slither engine, and you compile your contracts. Anyone who's used Slither knows you can just point it at a contract, and what it will do is it first compiles that, and then it will check all these different things. And the way that works is the Slither engine will run against that compiled code, put it in an intermediary state, and then you have a suite of detectors, and it will run through each of those detectors and see if they kind of match to that intermediary state. And then that's when you get the findings, if one of them has matched. And so Trail of Bits in Slither has a default set of detectors, and Pessimistic has made their own that does that. I guess mutation testing. I haven't looked too deeply into it, but all we do is we take those detectors and we add it into the suite of detectors that we're running through Slither. And to do that, normally you have to go to the Slytherin like GitHub. You have to download their detectors. You have to install it into Slither. And I think now they have like some scripts where you can run it on its own if you just want to look at the individual detectors individually. And there's some problems like if one detector has an error in it, then the whole scan will fail. And AuditWizard handles those like gracefully. We run the detectors individually and catch the errors. So it's just like an easier way to add additional detectors to your Slither scans. And now we're going to be, planning to add more in the future. And as we find more like people building these additional Slither detectors, we can easily add them in. Maybe the future of AuditWizard actually would be a platform where you as a user can write a simple Slither detector yourself. Like if you find a vulnerability and you want to kind of automate that so that every time you're reviewing something, you can just run through Slither and it will find your detector if it's there. Maybe the future in AutoWizard is going to be that functionality where you can do that.
So maybe it will be somehow moving into online ID that is read mode only, but potentially saying that you might be adding JSL there, and that you also mentioned that potentially you can write your own tests. So it seems that it's going to get maybe soon not more like because I wanted to ask earlier actually, because you say you will be able to add your own tests. So that means that then you will be able to edit the existing contract that you imported? Or where will those tests be written in a separate, I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of. I wish I could demo it now,
Okay.
but it'll be released soon. But it's kind of a separate little tool where you get a new window and you get a fresh like file and you can edit it. You write your test in there and you save it, and it kind of saves to this other. It's kind of outside of the project, right? So we feel pretty strongly about keeping the data and the work you do separated from the core project, so you always know you haven't touched the core project. You've like can write some tests, but they're kind of in this special area. And so you can you can write tests.
We'll have a great excuse to meet again so that you can demo that.
Yeah, and keep an eye out like on our Twitter. We're going to be releasing it very soon, and definitely super excited about that feature.
Me too.
Yeah, okay. Maybe someone have question. I think Gregory have one. Yeah, just let me give him a. Yeah. Okay.
Hey guys, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just got the question from the community member who couldn't join today. But yeah, he really wanted to get an answer for that. So the question is in the following. As far as I understood, you have the functionality in your application to generate the reports, right? So you can submit the vulnerability and generate the report from that. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So the question was, is there any like security practices integrated to keep the disclosed vulnerabilities in private and defend it in any way? Yeah, because that was his kind of point of how do you call it, like anxiety at some point, just because just because if you disclose critical within the application that does not have like direct how do you call it, like relations to the judging the vulnerability and actually providing this whole concept. I wonder what do you think on this question, if you have anything to tell.
Yeah, definitely. It's a great question, and it's something that's been at the top of our mind for a while. So first off, I'll say that we've built AuditWizard with security in mind from day one, and the features we build in, we make sure they're secure. We get we've had a penetration test performed, and we make sure that everything's fully mitigated and there's no significant security threats. So the standard like web app security stuff that's handled, we encrypt everything in the database. Like the standard data handling security measures. So you should feel comfortable with the security level of AutoWizard. And now, if you're doing something highly critical and you want to keep a finding entirely to yourself, we as AutoWizard are not decrypting the database and looking through the data. There's no human putting eyes on your unencrypted data. But I guess theoretically, it's possible that we could, since the database and the key exist in the same place. And if you're extra paranoid about a specific finding you found or a project that you're working on, we actually released a recent feature where you can open a project in what's called private mode. And now I walked through a couple things you can do in AuditWizard. You can create notes, you can create findings, and you can draw on the whiteboard to create diagrams. And when you open something in private mode, what happens is a key is generated within your browser that only you know about. It only exists in your browser. So AutoWizard doesn't have access to it. No other third party has access to it. And that key is used to encrypt the findings, notes, and whiteboards from your browser before it even gets sent to our servers. So if you're extra paranoid, that's full end-to-end encryption, and there's no way anyone, including AutoWizard, could look at that data. So even if an attacker, breached AutoWizard completely, stole all of our data, they would still not be able to access, that data that's encrypted with your key. And so then there is a little bit of nuance to that. It does disable some of the features, like the AI features obviously are not going to work on encrypted data. We're working on improving our report generation system. Right now it happens server side, and there's actually a lot of UX and UI improvements that need to be made there anyway, but we're going to be moving that to the client side so that when you have these end-to-end encrypted findings, you can still generate a report from them. So that's going to be coming. But the privacy mode exists now. I guess the only other thing there is when you enable that, you do have to be a little bit careful about managing your key. Because if you do work and you clear your browser cache, for example, that's going to blow away the key. So you should make sure to always export the key when you're opening a project in private mode. And then if you want to go to another browser or another machine to access the same private project you were working on, you need to somehow copy that key over to that machine and then provide it in your browser when you try to open that. So there's a little bit of key management involved, but it does give you complete privacy if you care about that.
Yeah, that's awesome. That sounds awesome to me. Like, yeah, I didn't expect that comprehensive answer, but you clear the mind for a lot of auditors who got stopped by using your application just because they don't know that you have this functionality. But yeah, the idea was actually like from my side, I thought that the cool idea would be to do some kind of desktop application or something like that does not have any connection to the internet. But here the trade-off is that you cannot use the LLM, right? And I think your solution is the best one here. Sounds good. Yep. Thank you for your answer.
Yeah, and I think people have asked about a desktop version because there are some people that are extra paranoid and want to do their work on an air-gapped machine. And that's something we're exploring for the future. I can't say it's coming anytime soon because it's quite a big lift.
Right.
But I do think it's a possibility that there could be like a containerized version of our app, basically compress our servers down to an executable, and people can download that as a desktop client. So that might be something we look for in the future. So if anyone cares strongly about that, please let us know, and that will inform if we need to reprioritize that.
Awesome. Yeah, really inspired by you guys, to be honest, because you are shipping. I think you're one of the quickest teams to ship products, and I think that's your motto. I got it from our conversation on in Paris last year, this year actually, this summer. So yeah, congrats on that. I hope you have more tools, more features released soon. I wonder if anyone has more questions from the community side. Let me know. Just
I
text in the
think
chat. Yeah.
I think the question is how the independent security researchers can start using your tool. Do you have open beta or you have closed one? How they can the try to use it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're in an open beta right now. So that demo I gave is the experience everyone would have when they visit the tool. So you can go there now. You can import via any mechanism. We made it easy by putting some of the popular contests out there, which I'm sure people are most interested in diving into. But yeah, I'd say to get started, just go create an account. You can log in via Google, GitHub. You can use your Ethereum wallet to do sign in with Ethereum, just sign a message. So there's a lot of different ways to create an account. And yeah, then you can just do exactly what I did and get started using all the powerful features. And now for now it's free. Because we're in beta and we're looking to get user feedback. So please feel free to reach out to us with that feedback. We definitely appreciate it and definitely give everything a try and use it for your work now. We'll be releasing, coming out of beta and releasing like a full production version sometime next spring. So next year. And then that will have even more powerful features with like a paid subscription plan where if you want more than what there is now, which will have built many more things, then you can pay a little bit extra, get reduce rate limits, get maybe better AI responses, and have access to those unique features that we're going to be bringing. So that's the future, but right now it's free for everyone for the next few months. So please give it a try and enjoy it.
Yeah, maybe I just can read the question from the chat also from HMHA. The person asked, is it like does only Solidity audit? Or I mean, is it integrate only with Solidity, or you can audit others, languages?
Yeah, so that first part of the demo that I showed where you import the project and you take notes on the code and you create findings, all of that is sort of agnostic of the language. So you can actually use AuditWizard to do any security work, like any auditing work you want on any language, any ecosystem, as long as you can import it into AuditWizard. But then the other tools that I showed you, where you can generate a graph, you can scan with Slither, you can look at the storage slots. Those are kind of Solidity specific. And right now we're really just focusing on Solidity EVM tooling. It'll take a while to get all the tools that we want fully integrated. There's a very long list of them. I would say at this point we're 20 to 25% feature complete with just the Solidity roadmap. So we do have in mind to support other languages. I think especially we're looking at Arbitrum stylus and how they have the different WASM compatible languages, and thinking about how we can provide a mechanism to allow people to do like security scanning of these new like Rust and these new languages. So things like Solana and Arbitrum WASM contracts, you can do the same work on them. But no concrete release date for that yet. I would say just stay tuned, and eventually we'll get around to supporting your preferred language.
Any coming features that you can speak about? Like we know about the testing one, potentially integrating with Stylus or Rust? Anything else that you guys have in mind that it's actually going to happen, but just in next year?
Yeah. I'd say testing is the most exciting one, and there's some additional features on top of that I didn't talk about. We're going to be building this template system, so you can think of it's kind of like Solo did, but if it was just for proof of concept tests. So if you had like a big, large library of tests you could browse through, like if you want to test for reentrancy or you want to test ERC20 contract, you want to just load up all the different ERC20 standard security tests and run them against this contract, you can do that. You can create your own templates and you can share them amongst yourself, amongst your community. And also, so that's going to be coming with testing or shortly after. So we, as a team, I think about a month or so ago, maybe a couple months ago, participated in a hackathon at ETH Global New York, and what we built there, we call it Spyglass. So if you're interested, I think you could find the tweet on our Twitter that talks about it, and we have a little demo video. But essentially, what Spyglass is it's a platform for allowing you to easily and intuitively create a detection rule. So I talked about before, like you can extend Slither as Pessimistic has done with Slytherin. You can extend it by writing a detector, but that requires you learn the ins and outs of Slither. You write it in Python. You understand how Slither is going to work, and there's like a steep learning curve, and then you create a whole GitHub repo and fork the part of Slither you need, and it's just a huge pain if you want to quickly throw together a detector. So what Spyglass does is it abstracts all of that. So you can use Slither, you can use AST, traversal, you can use regex pattern matching, and you can use AI, and you can combine all those things together and say, like, maybe ask the AI, hey, does this contract conform to ERC20 standard? If yes, then let me run this detector in Slither, and let me also do some regex pattern matching. And if enough of those things are matching, then I'll say, oh, this looks like reentrancy. And so now there's two benefits to that. One, the community can build these rules and they can be agnostic of the language because you can use AI and you can just look at larger patterns, but also build these rules out for individual languages, like for traversing through the AST. Maybe the Python AST looks a little bit different than Solidity, or the Rust AST looks a little bit different from Solidity. You just make some small tweaks, but the point is it's really easy to do and to be applied to different languages and different systems. So then we can start supporting like these WASM languages and Rust and different things that aren't Solidity with scanning tools that the community can make within AuditWizard. But also it supports this, what I firmly believe is the future of auditing. It supports this automation and augmentation part of the auditing process where you find some things and you found them by looking at a certain pattern, and you think that pattern is easily, a machine could easily find that. So you want to write a quick like script to find that. This gives you a mechanism to do that. So now in the future, you don't have to really look for that anymore. You've got this reproducible scanner that you can easily build within a matter of minutes, or even use AI to help you write those rules. And every time you do an audit, if you add one or two, eventually you get this large suite of scanning rules where you open up a project and maybe it finds a couple of vulnerabilities that you would have found yourself, right away. So you can write your own Slither essentially. So that's something we're excited about that will be coming next year.
It really sounds interesting. I mean, it's some kind of that now in ChatGPT you can create different type of ChatGPTs, right? Like you can have some expert in Foundry, some expert in something, and then he has some knowledge base, right? And I was thinking now on the way, like suggestion of a new feature, or maybe you have thought of that. So considering that there are people that either private audits or in public contests, they collaborate with each other, any kind of shared mode coming, anything that can be, two people working the same import, let's say.
Yeah, that's a really good question. That is actually coming. Hopefully for that production launch that I mentioned next spring.
Nice.
The idea is to have something similar to like the experience you get in Cantina Code, right? You can annotate, comment on the code, and have like a conversation between the different participants, right? Maybe you want to invite. So if you're doing a contracted audit, maybe you want to invite to the AuditWizard project the owner of the contracts, so that you're auditing and they can see your progress. They can see the things you're doing, and you can also have a back and forth chat with them. If you have a question like, how does this thing work? Or what do you think about this potential finding? Or if you find something right away, you want to let them know about it. You say, hey, open up AuditWizard. You can see my report as I'm writing it before I deliver it. But also, if you are working on a team of auditors, in addition to that, you can, and we don't know exactly how this is going to work yet because we haven't started implementing it. But my hope is that we can build like a pair programming interface. I think some IDs have this already, where it's like a code together plugin, where you can both be editing the same stuff. So we want to bring something like that to AuditWizard, where you can see what the other person, what files they're looking at. If they highlight a chunk of code they want to bring your attention to, there's a mechanism for that. So the idea would be you guys are on like a Discord call or something, you're talking to each other and like looking at the same project in AuditWizard, and you can see each other working, or you can work asynchronously and you can see here's the updates your fellow auditor made, or the notes they left for you that you need to go act on. And in addition to that, if you have like a junior auditor and a senior auditor, you could have someone do the audit work, and you have like a review cycle where, okay, similar to GitHub, they pushed a PR, if you want to think of it that way, to the security report you guys are working on, and it just needs a review from the senior auditor to okay it and say, yeah, these are all good. I agree with them. So hopefully we can put all that in, and we'll see how that looks when we get there.
That sounds awesome. Yeah, I just want to add one thing. Sorry, guys, to interrupt. Yeah, just the idea of making a collaboration platform for auditing. I think this is something like that would be a game changer, to be honest. Make it really secure and make it. I will shill for sure once you do it. I will be the number one shiller because you read my mind with this idea. I think that's super cool topic. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the live session is coming to the end, and I want to just to say thank you for all our participants, to our co-hosts, to our speakers from AuditWizard. As they said, you can drop and try their tool for free. It's open, it's easy to use. You can try to do it from day one. And just thank you guys for your time. Thank you guys for your presentation.